know what I'm talking about? That lettuce, that lettuce. Gotta get it. Gotta get it. That lettuce, that lettuce, focused all on the check. Yeah, all I want is lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce. Yeah, just give me the lettuce. All I know is lettuce.
Lettuce heads, we are back with another edition of Please Let Us Golf, the podcast. Going to be a good one tonight. We're going to be doing the full official debrief of TPC Sawgrass, the Players Championship. Could it be the fifth major? Who could say? But joining us tonight, we got myself, yours truly, Goldie, Jewel, Adam, and Mr. Golfberger taking the night off. But also tonight, got a special guest joining us, Mr. David Rumsey from Front Office Sports, lead golf reporter, who is down on location at the Players all week. So hopefully glean some good insight. David, welcome to the podcast for the first time.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm excited. This is awesome to be here.
And right before we went going, right when we hit play, the dog was barking in the background. We like dogs here, so it's okay. He or she,
Dog friendly.
He or she is what do we?
She, Maggie. Yeah.
Okay, so Maggie. If Maggie interrupts, it's all good. Tyler's down there in the studio. If it gets too obnoxious, he'll take some timestamps to try to drown out your audio, but it's all good. So guys, let's just jump right into it. So Cam Young wins the Players Championship. Also, after we get through the Players, we're going to do a little bit of the Rolapp talk too. Should have brought that up. The 6 big things that we want to talk about the future of golf. So, Jewel, I know you watched a lot. So the text chain was blowing up this weekend. It was really you texting yourself, and I would occasionally chime in. We knew it once the guy. So, David, once the other guys said, "I don't think I'm doing the pod Sunday night," it just goes incommunicado on the updates. But so, Jewel, your perspective, the event, Cam Young, what he did on Sunday. Give us the rundown.
Yeah, well, first off, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I think second week in a row where I got passed on that. Not a big deal.
We had a guest, I was just trying to get to the point. You know what I mean?
No, great to be here, though. I thought it was a wonderful weekend. It started with the Rolapp presser, which was fantastic. We had a lot of chatter about that before the other two guys went pretty silent through the weekend. The golf course played exactly like I think we hoped, except for maybe 8 hours after the rain. Man, it played firm and fast. The greens were baked out. I've got my father-in-law with me watching the tournament most of the weekend. He's like, "Why are the greens so yellow?" So I had to explain all that to him, but it was so much fun, man. And we had a lot of guys popping this weekend. We had Xander playing well, which I know I'm gonna bring him up several times because I called him to win it on Wednesday. We had a bit of a heated argument through text about that and his strokes gained here recently. Brooks played well. Max was up and down, but he popped some form. Ludwig obviously played phenomenal on Friday. Saturday, pretty good round. Then today, kind of a tough showing. But just a lot of guys this weekend. And then Cam Young with a freaking just big boy back nine today was so much fun. And just, I don't want to gloss over Matt Fitzpatrick. He played some phenomenal golf this afternoon too. I mean, I wouldn't say he necessarily stumbled down the stretch. Cam kind of took it from him. And he made a bogey on 18, but the dude played fantastic. So some really good golf with some really big names, and exactly what you want from the players.
Yeah, the players always delivers, and I'm trying to avoid going down the complete leaderboard, and I want to definitely pick David's brain of the kind of the vibe on course. But really quick on Cam Young. So I was kind of there with you, man, as we were going through the weekend. So I got the leaderboard up, and like Matt Fitzpatrick kind of felt like he was going to win coming down the stretch there. But Cam just never atrophied. I got to give him a lot of credit. He just kept hitting good shot. And his robot emotionless ability on the golf course, I think, came through on such a grind test of the players. And I do have some, I think, evolved opinions of the Players Championship at TP Sawgrass as a venue. But David, you were on grounds for the week. Walk us through your eyes. What was the vibe? What was the feeling? Is what we were seeing on TV, that course playing as tough, but as fair as it looked? Is that what you were seeing on the ground?
Yeah, it definitely was. And I mean, it was picking up in the afternoons, just like you expect a difficult golf course too. I mean, shoot, I wish I was there today. I drove back this morning, so I wasn't there for the final round. And, hearing those USA chants on 17 and 18 for Cam Young over Fitzpatrick, all kind of playful, maybe a little bit of bad blood from the American fans still left over
Yeah.
from the Ryder Cup. But does it surprise anybody that he came in here and won the Players Championship? I mean, obviously he only won his first PGA Tour event in the Wyndham last August, but he was in contention for so many majors, going all the way back to St. Andrews in 2022, right? When
Yep.
Cam Smith won. So, I mean, this just feels like validation for him. And yeah, what was that? 374 yards on that last drive. That's just big boy stuff. And yeah, it did seem, I'm with you. It did seem like Fitzpatrick was going to win. I was there yesterday, sitting at 16, 17 when he went birdie on 16, stuffed it to 2 feet on 17. And I think Cam Young hit it even closer when he came through. So those guys were just dialed in. They're clearly the best two players all weekend.
Yeah, and 17 was interesting today too, because like guys, not that that's a green light flag on the Sunday pin, obviously, but the guys that were in contention that had to get it over that little ridge center, like nobody could funnel it down there. And Cam was the only one that effectively did. And it is a nasty slider above the hole. But if you're going to have a realistic chance of making that putt, you got to go for it. I know the announcer said the wind was messing those guys up and they thought it might have been helping to get it over there, and everyone was getting held up like right on the ridge line. So yeah, he won it. I mean, that's like the iconic part of Sawgrass, not the literal obvious 16, 17, 18 being amazing closing stretch. But a lot of times it does come down when it's a great Players Championship of who can hit that shot into 17 in the bowl and give yourself either the stress-free par or at least that look at the birdie. So I give Cam all the credit in the world. And I want to go leaderboard, guys, but you got to just bear with me, David. You're going to be like, God, this guy's not going to shut up here. A little controversy corner. It's not just to spice up the early part of the pod, but yesterday during the broadcast, Kevin Kisner brought up after Cam made a good par save, made a birdie putt. He brought up last May, Cam Young brought in a new caddy, college partner or college teammate, simply because he said he's the best greens reader he's ever played with in his life. And he went starting last May, 100%. He reads every putt, and Cam goes and just executes the line, right? I made a little reel just saying like, hey, this information just came out. I wasn't tracking that. I knew there was a caddy switch. I didn't know it was that literal, that 100% of the putts. Cam was just outside of reading it now, all on the caddy. And I threw the question out there. I just said, hey, I don't know if I personally love that. It's not a violation of a rule. I'm not accusing him of cheating. But I do think it's a little bit of that spirit of the game and intention of the caddy piece for me of course, iconic moments. So one of our pin reels, this is one of our most popular things is when we were doing the Masters deep dive and Adam Scott getting the read from the caddy from Stevie Williams when he said, no, you called him off, said, no, you're a cup off chap, like you're going to putt it here, and he sinks the putt and he wins the Masters. Great caddy moments. Nobody's denying that. I think there's just a big difference from that and, hey, I'm not reading my putts anymore. And it was supported by data. Before you guys get in, and you please disagree where you do, because plus, trust me, I got about 500 caddies now DMing and in the comments section ready to end my life. My thing was, so Cam Young, strokes gained putting his entire career, he's been neutral or negative. When he made that caddy switch, he's now been close to 1 stroke gain per round for the last 10 months. So take a guy at his caliber, such an elite ball striker and the power, and he's getting 3/4 to a fourth or to a shot gain just through that change. That didn't sit right with me. And so I'm going to get your guys' opinion here, but I want to give you the 4 big takeaways the comment section had. The one was, what's next? Caddies can't give them a yardage. I got a really good counter for that. 2, they still have to hit the putt. The player still has to hit the putt. 3, I love this one, kept coming up, that all players have advantages. This one's just his advantage. And 4, that caddies have always been a part of the game. So I have very specific breakdowns to those. But before we get into them, am I totally in the wrong here? What are your guys' thoughts?
Go ahead, David.
I mean, I think it's kind of. I would never say you can't. What are you going to do? Tell your caddy can't be 15 feet away from. You can't. How would you ever enforce it unless you have to keep him off the green?
Now we're talking.
When I've played with a caddy, the few times that I have, I've loved it, especially when they've been good ones as far as reading. I think it's breaking right to left, and they say no, you're a couple feet outside left, and then boom, it cozies up right next to the hole. So. I don't know if I can support you. I get it. I think there's better. I mean, what's worse, a caddy reading a putt or anchoring? I'd love to hear your take on that.
Oh man, so that is a whole nother. That's probably going to be We got a filler week of a pod episode. We might just do that. Jewel, before I go on again, thoughts?
There's 2 reasons why I play in a 4-ball with you, because I enjoy hanging out and playing golf with you, and because you can read every single putt. Like, it's strategic, man. I mean, I don't know. I think what you're arguing is like get rid of caddies altogether, and that's not happening. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but also I think it's smart for him to pick anybody to pick what their weakness is from a caddy. It's basically their partner.
Yeah. So I want to get in to do the players justice because it's an awesome event. So let me get into that. Well, at least the big one of everyone jumped to. I was just suggesting maybe reading 100% of a player's putts is kind of against the spirit of the intention, but I did throw a little clickbait at the end of like, maybe they shouldn't read any putts, of course, and everyone went to that, and they immediately went to what's next, right? Carry the bag, don't say a word. I would just argue this they give yardages. They do this. Yardages is information. Wind direction is information. The bunker's 151, we're 170 stick, winds 5 off the left. Let's hold up an 8 iron. There is an art and a skill of how they package that information, and to Jules' point, how they have a relationship with the player. I'm not diminishing that. I'm not suggesting that goes away. I don't want anyone to lose their jobs. I personally think that is materially different than the skill of reading greens, which I think is an inherent player skill. Cam Young could go get all those yardages and the wind and that, but we'd have 9-hour rounds. Like that's not, I'm not saying there's no skill in it, but any reasonable person could go loop and figure out how to speak that lingo. And it's a lot of prep work. So I don't want to downplay that either. I just don't find that to be like a refined elite golfer's skill. Reading a green to me is just as important as executing the putt, which was part 2, is he still has to hit the putt, of course. And I'm sure Cam Young, it probably drove him nuts because when he was on the little Hideki string training drill, I'm sure he could sink 99 out of 100 8-footers on a string putt on a flat green in a row. Technically, his stroke looks awesome. He looks comfortable. But reading the putt is at least a third of the equation, right? So that just was my kind of heartburn. First of all, none of it's that serious. I get it. But I do think there's a material difference than like reading a putt. Some people counter that's still information. I don't buy that. I think there is a mixture of art and skill of figuring out a line. And then, of course, then the player, there's pace associated with that. Pace is probably king. But that's just kind of where I netted out of like, it's not going to change. So maybe it's a useless argument, but maybe 100%. And it clearly works because he started winning. He started popping. He's got confidence. Now he's a player's champion. And I also noticed not one time this weekend did they show his caddy reading the putt. Every time it just cut. So you get it. A lot of times they're showing guys are down there reading putts and that. You see a caddy get called in. Not one time this weekend. It was just him executing the putt. So I was like, look, whatever. So anyways, guys, you can call me an idiot. You can go on to that, or we can go down the leaderboard. But that's just my thing. I just think we got to protect the.
What did caddies get? 10% of winning. So 4.5 million. That's 450,000 for reading some greens this weekend. That's pretty good.
And that's another thing too. People were like, this guy, he's a great guy. Peace. I don't know. Go read every putt, dude. Look at you. You guys might end up being a pairing of the top 3-4 golfers in the world with Cam Young's skill set. I'm not saying to stop doing it. I'm just saying I don't like it. So it's okay. I mean, everyone, different strokes, different folks. But all right.
Wait,
well,
so you want caddies just to go back to lighting cigarettes, filling divots,
Yeah,
and fixing ball markers, and that's it. And they
There we
stand
go.
like 10 yards behind them and walk behind them.
Yeah, don't say a word unless spoken to. Go rake that bunker. I do laugh at some of the people like the history of the game with Cat. I was like, come on, man. Like this, let's be real of what caddies really have been in American golf. It's just like rich guys carry my clubs is really the history of American golf caddies. Look, and also I want to be clear here too. When we say the word caddy, professional golf caddy, resort golf caddy, private club caddy, Evans Scholar caddy, these are completely different conversations, but they get on you, man. They're Swifties on a whole nother level. So, but good, hey, protect your profession. I'm the idiot. What do I know? I'm just an elite greens reader, and I'm trying to preserve one of the skills of the game of golf that you can't have technology completely ruined. Okay, so thank you for sticking with us in the program. Now back to regular scheduled CBC Sawgrass talk. So Cam Young wins, epic down the stretch. Ludwig, man. I thought it was a foregone conclusion that today was going to be kind of boring. He looked like he was on autopilot. Yeah. He just looks good. Ed Jewel, you said his Adidas fit is classy. He just looks like he's the guy. But man, he started getting that the little bit of driver woes, the back-to-back interstellar balls to start the back nine. Kind of ruined one of my takes on 12. I still think 12 is a really bad golf hole. But he had to go and hook it into the drink and basically throw the tournament away there. But thoughts on Ludwig?
Man, I mean, if he hits the green on 11, 2 putts for birdie, and then just makes a par on 12, he's in a playoff at the very least, right?
Yeah.
And his psyche might be different. So really is 2 swing. He was so far down the leaderboard, he thought he completely blew it. But I mean, it's really just 2 swings.
Yeah. And that's that's why that course is so freaking good. I know I wasn't ready for venue talk yet, but that front nine, a couple holes I don't love, but the front nine is such an elite test of golf. And the back nine still preserves that, but then it gives you that manufactured 16, 17, 18 drama. It really is like the quintessential big boy golf test for professional golfers, especially for the modern golfer. It preserves enough of that integrity and I don't feel gimmicky. A lot of times, you get the US Open rough growing up a foot and it's just hack out stuff. You don't really see that. Like you got the rough's penal. It's very difficult. And you see guys get out of positions, but when you see triples and quads, it's like it's usually because somebody made a mistake and they really tried to hit a dumb recovery and they went rough to rough, short-sided, ping-ponging over the side of the green. So it's just an amazing, like if you really know ball, which I've been accused I don't know ball because of the greens reading debacle. It's a really awesome, just sit down and watch the best players in the world try to navigate that challenge.
Yeah, and it was also interesting on 11. They talked on the broadcast all weekend about Ludwig and how he likes to shape the ball straight, right? He just hits it on a freaking rope straight. Yeah. But when he comes to a course, it really asks for him to hit it left to right or right to left. He can adapt to it. And so most of the weekend, he was focused on hitting it right to left. And then that first ball on 11, that was the interstellar one on the par 5. I think he had 3 wood in hand, and he just slapped it so far right into the middle of that pond. It was really surprising. And then, he comes back on 12 and he just comes over the top of one and hits a big draw into the pond on the left.
And that was deep into the pond too, not like, oh, hold on. It was like almost towards the other side.
Both of them, neither one of them were close, but that's the whole like psyche of, I can't do that. Like I can't go to a course and say, all right, I'm hitting a right to left all weekend. And then it asks for me to hit a left or right ball. And then I try to change my swing during the middle of a round, like especially for them. On the back nine, he's got a couple shot lead at that point, 2-shot lead, I believe. And then he hits a interstellar ball right, and then he comes back and does the left. And then I can't imagine what's going on in that head.
Yeah,
I feel for him because he he just seems so unstoppable. And we've seen it in the past, you know, kind of that first couple of years he came on tour. You're like, man, how's this guy ever not going to win? Even before, you know, played his first major and everything. So I thought he was back. I thought he was going to be on cruise control today, you know, 68, 69, nobody's getting close. But it just shows like that's the game of golf, and that's the golf course, as you're saying too. It's not just walk up and hit it.
Hey, Tyler, down in the studio for us. Do a quick look up. How many water balls were there on 17 today? I'm gonna do a reattack on that, a little trivia or a little challenge question for us. Yeah, I just it's fascinating to watch. And Ludwig, it is this guy. Like, I still feel like it just at some point he's going to be on some kind of generational tear. It feels that way, but it also is. It is that thing of like being so good and being at the top and the failure and the scar tissue. It's like some guys, it's like the JT or the Jordan Spieth getting that early success and then the scar tissue happening after. You never know what the order of operations are going to be for a golfer, but I still feel like his game just feels like it can be good anywhere. I'm just waiting to see like that 6 month run where we're like, he's going to clip off 2 or 3. And I mean, still might be a couple of years away. And maybe, this, Sawgrass has a tendency to bite people on the back nine at a 40's tough. But you know who I actually thought played amazing from the footage I watched all week was JT. He had one quad on Saturday that was just a ridiculous quad. Is JT, he was in his full vibe state and he gets to 6. He's got the tree right. And he just tries to get a little too cute there and didn't need to. And he just birdied 2 of the last 3. He was 1 back at that point. I mean, mega pulls into the water left, and the water left's almost not in play because it's hard to reach. First of all, second of all, there's so many trees there to cover them is tough. And then he tries to hit the dumbest drop recovery shot, ends up taking a quad there, and he bounced back for the day. But he really looked solid. He was hitting a lot of golf shots. He was hitting that hooky 5 wood, hooky 3 wood. Driver looked pretty good. So coming off the back injury and the debacle he had at the API last week, I got some JT stock. I think he could buy a little low still right now. That I like what I saw out of him.
Yeah, I agree. He did look really good. He looked incredibly comfortable. And I don't know if it was just, coming off of last week, still playing in Florida, being somewhat close to home. But yeah, the short game looked really good. He had some Spieth holes, though. I don't think that 8 was the only big number. I think he had another double in there too. But yeah, that was a really weird hole. I don't know. I feel like that's the situation where Caddie probably should have commanded that one a little tougher, but that was a really weird shot he tried to play after he took that drop in that thick rough and tried to punch it out and left it short, and then had to get even more creative from there. But I was also impressed. It's exciting to see him flash this week because he's just another dude that could jump in and start challenging Scotty and Rory.
Seems like he did get a little bit greedy there on that 6 tee box, like you guys are saying. But to your point about recovering, I was sitting there at 16, 17 late in the day yesterday, and he hit a magnificent second approach shot into 16. One of the few to really challenge that pin that was so close to the water on the right there in the 3rd round. He missed his eagle putt, but man, it was in there close. He had a good look at it, tap in birdie. So yeah, to your point about recovering after that huge blow up hole, it was good by him.
So I mean, it was I do like to see it just because I think, again, the juxtaposition of watching JT golf and Jordan Spieth golf to Cam Young. I mean, that it's a continual issue with me. The robots that it was kind of this like 2016 to 2021, 22 golf class that guys came out of, where it was just sports psychologists at probably at the age of 15 that programmed these guys to be their killers, but not the most exciting, outward-facing, energetic a player to watch. No cocaine train for some of those guys. But just going down the leaderboard, so Xander, he birdies what? I think he birdies his last 3, backdoors the 3rd, but he looks solid for the week, and he's been slowly getting that form back. The bridge man cometh, he's still another T5. It's just a guy that I don't ever find myself pulling for, but damn it, if he's not been on every leader. It's kind of like Ben Griffin adjacent from last year, like it's not that I was pulling for or against him, but he just kept finding himself everywhere. And before he knew it, he's a top, 10, 15 player, at least in rankings in the world. Fleet God, Tommy just playing consistent Tommy golf. It's been almost 2 years straight where it's just like, man, I wonder what kind of money you could have made if you just played Tommy's going to top 20 like every event for the last 24 months. Cause you could be putting the house to shame. The septic tank was up there. Who else? Anything crazy? Sam Burns, but that was really crazy putting, right? Wasn't the data golf off the charts this year or this week? Brooks, let's talk about Brooks for a second. Okay. Brooks is a needle people want to hear. So the return hasn't been overly sexy. But had some flashes there of, playing some good weekend golf the other week. Played solid 72, 70, 69, 71 at a hard golf course, T13. We'll see. Seems committed. I mean, I think Brooks making a run would be huge for the energy of the PGA Tour, but still just like can the big game hunter is it really a thing? Like, he was it's such an oddity. I really think when his career's over, it's going to be the craziest thing to study the whole, whatever it is, like 4 PGA Tour wins and 5 majors. That the fact that he just wasn't a 20 to 30 win PGA Tour guy blows my mind. Makes no sense. Did you see any of Brooks when you're out there this week?
I did. And yeah, listen, it was, I was a big fan of Brooks back in the day, just when he was coming on, winning so many majors. I enjoyed seeing him win in 2023, even though he was still on live. I think it's cool that he's able to get back in form a little bit because he clearly was not feeling challenged right when he was still on live. But this week it seems like I asked him a question on was it Tuesday when we had some pre-tournament time with him in the media room. I asked him about like, hey, would you be a resource for live guys if they have a question about the returning member program that he essentially founded, if you want to say that, as a first member? And he'd give a little cheeky answer about how he changed his phone number, but he still text him and blah, blah, blah. But so he's still, he had that one, ready to go, that one liner, but he's still himself. But I feel like he's a toned down version of himself. And I don't know if that's what that means for him on the golf course, because I feel like, he had that, kind of FU attitude. And then he was a killer on the course. So listen, he's the defending champion at Shinnecock, right? So where we're going for the US Open this year. I don't know what his record is like at Aronimink, but I assume he can win another PGA if he has the game with him. So yeah, I think it's great for golf when he's up there in contention at majors. And yeah, I mean, he's still finding some form back on the PGA Tour. So decent finish for him this week.
Yeah, and I do like that he's grinding in some of the non-signature events as part of that deal. Not that I wasn't in the camp of, look, I'm kind of agnostic to how this all comes back together. I just want to see the guys playing together. So the camp that's like they should go play every shit event and earn their way back. Got it. It's 5-time major champion. Like rules are different based on
exactly
value and capability, and I want to see him playing in the biggest events. So all good. I get good to see. Scotty Scheffler. So Scotty T22s. So he kept his streak alive of top 25. So Adam had that tidbit last week, I think it was, when he's struggling early. There's another cut he makes like on the number, so he's keeping that cut streak alive, even on some of the fake cut signature events. Playing solid, 67, 71 of the weekend. He's getting a little cheeky in his responses to the media of, I think the one quote was, you said, did I find something that implies that I'm lost? So I did like it. I was like, give him a little fire back. But man, he's got his little sassy attitude when he's not playing good golf. And I've been consistent on the pod. I love greatness, so I'm pulling for Scotty to be great. But he's had those flashes where it's like lots of club throwing, a lot of ball throwing, a lot of, oh my God. I wish we could use, that's a whole nother pod. I wish we could use PGA Tour clips, because when he said the whole, that would imply I'm lost. I would love to just overlay his driver swings from Thursday and Friday of how many times he threw the club, flipped the club, covered his mouth. So maybe still images that won't get the account shut down. So I don't know. Thoughts on Scotty? Is this just normal little blip on the radar, and we should all buy low right now and go all in on the Masters because he's the obvious odds-on favorite, or do we think we got some potential normalization, regression to the mean for Scotty Scheffler?
It's hard to assume anything other than it's just a blip on the radar at this point. I'd love to say that he's struggling with something, but I think he's just tuning up. I think he's had a couple of rough weeks. I don't know what strokes gains says for him over the last few weeks on what he's kind of struggling at, but I think it's a blip on the radar, and I think we'll see him in his Scotty form in Augusta.
Well, once again, so really quick on strokes gain. So I think 3 of the last 4 weeks, he lost strokes gain on approach, which is his bread and butter that he murders fields with. This week, he was just neutral, 0.05. So I guess technically that's an improvement, but that is where the issue has been.
And to your point, he has been more animated and more frustrated, not just, in the media room with reporters, but yeah, he's dropping the driver, he's throwing the balls, because I think he knows how good he is, and he's just can't figure out why he's not performing up to his level. And one of the things I kind of explored this past week and was asking around some folks about, like, hey, listen, he's doing Tiger-like stuff on the course. What about off the course? Like, how big is his superstardom? We haven't seen a lot of big TV rating spikes, but at the same time, when he's on the course, it's clearly he's the guy that everybody wants to follow. He was out in the morning wave on Thursday. Rory wasn't going off till the afternoon. So he was with JT and Fleetwood, main attraction. Like, people, I do think there is a bit of a Scotty effect these days as far as people want to see him. They want to see him succeed. And I think he can get to that point where even if he is dominating a tournament, people will still tune in and stay tuned in because, hey, at this point, we're talking U.S. Open would be Grand Slam for him, career Grand Slam, then be 5th major, 6th major. Like, people like to see a dynasty, I feel like, in team sports, and people like to see a really dominant player or individual in individual sports. But I am a little surprised with his performance so far this year, especially after he won at Palm Springs. It's been a little surprising.
So you're our Big J journalist. So you just brought up something that I think is one of the fallacies of sports. People claim they love parity and they want a level playing field and no, you don't. You want a dynasty. You want the Warriors going to the playoff or the finals 3 years in a row so you can love them, then you can hate them. You want dominance, and it's critical, I think, for golf because those guys become the needle. It really doesn't work in the model when it's just a hodgepodge of guys and how many times, man, we've talked about it on here multiple, that guys are good for 6 months runs and everyone's anointing them. And I even said it about Cam Smith, not a hater. I love watching Cam Smith play golf because there is a little bit of squirreliness and a little bit of Spieth-esque all over the map and getting up and down and rolling the flat stick. But I just, as a golfer and somebody who's probably consumed more hours of watching every level of golf, could watch him play and go, he's not a top 5 golfer in the world in perpetuity. He's great. He's probably a top 20 player. That's not a knock. But when you have 170 ball speed and a massive miss right as a PGA Tour professional, of course, when it's all clicking, he's going to be awesome. But there are just things that are prerequisites to the game. So, and that was just an example, but we always have these times where guys are just really hot for 9 months and they're the guy. Scotty's been the first one. I would say, no, that's not. Rahm was in that category for me, but Scotty's been really the first one since Rory, where I've said, yeah, he has the separating ability to really have generational, multi-decade performance, where other guys, it's like, they're going to be really good and guys that are around, but you see ticking time bomb aspects of their golf game. Not a question, just, my ability to rant.
And I mean, last year, right, he had the injury and everything early season, right? But then he came out, not out of nowhere, but he had struggled in the early part of the season, and then boom, PGA, boom, Open Championship, and then he's at 4 majors and just needs to win the U.S. Open to get the career Grand Slam. So he can go on some tears, and even if he doesn't get his third green jacket in April, I'm not counting him out for the other 3 majors this year.
That's a good point though. How many tournaments has Scotty won pre-Masters?
I don't know.
So he got one this year, obviously, but it does feel like he always kind of ramps up every year and gets to
Couple
Augusta and then he
players,
starts playing
couple
really good golf.
Arnold
Yeah, he has, and it just hasn't been the same. And we bring up our guy Spieth, and I want to talk about Spieth every week, but we've been really excited to see. It'd just be awesome to see him get back to some consistent elite form. But the exciting part with the early finishes or the first few tournaments of the year where we had some pretty solid finishes, I think the strokes game putting was off the charts. And now to this week, he finished, what was it? I had him somewhere. T32, not a disaster, but he lost over a half a shot putting again. So the approach play has been consistent, but a little bit wary on that putter again. We have to have that. The superpower has to be a superpower. If you're not Scotty Scheffler and you're just going to be great at everything, whatever, when Rory's superpower, he's got to be driving the golf ball. Spieth, he's got to be rolling the rock and hitting the approach shots. But other than that, I was going to say we're having a lot of balls in the water on 17. So Tyler, he's blaming the PGA Tour website there, which I'm going to give him a pass. It's not the best website. So I don't want to cite the number with some potential ambiguity. It does sound right that round 1 had 18 balls in it. I do feel like just 17 specific, that sounds right. But just in general, 17, let's say 100, let's just use round numbers for our brilliant, but audience, we don't want them to do math while they're driving. 100 players in the field. If that island green was not water and it was bunkers, right? And let's say now 20% of the field's hitting it in the water. What percent do you think really is putting it in there? How much is the psychological effect, just the fact that it's a water hazard?
I agree. I think you get more balls in because you just know if you miss, it's gone, and that's a stroke penalty.
Let me try to clean this up. I feel like that's a very fair response. That's obvious. That I worded it in a weird way. But how much do we really think it is? Because I think it's dramatic. I think it like 4X's the penalty. I think it's that dramatic to where it's 120 to 140 yard shot for these guys. And you see so many egregiously struck balls into that green. I know part of it's the swirling wind, all that, but if that wasn't water, if that was sand, I really think you'd get a couple a day. And not so I think we had over 30 for the tournament. I know that was a year or two ago when it was really gusting. I think they were over 100 for the event. It just goes to show I don't love water hazards as a amateur golfer. It's not the most exciting hazard, but anytime you can put doubt into a professional golfer's mind, it is really interesting to see them just do things that they would never do. Not that they're robots and they never miss hit shots, but I'm telling you, like OB and water hazard, it gives even the best players in the world the heebie-jeebies.
Well, and I hate to kind of be the devil's advocate on what you're trying to get across here, but if there were sand all around, don't you think they would be more aggressive and you'd see more balls in the bunker? They'd be willing to take it on a little bit more, take different lines. Because, I mean, these guys, it's a big green, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of them, they're hitting to a certain point that's more towards the middle. And if there were sand all around, they'd probably be a little bit more aggressive.
I think the only thing you'd see some like long right, but I don't think those egregious ones that fan short right that are just the scared mishit flighted ones,
nervy one,
or just I'm going to hit the hold off. I'm going to control my spin. So I'm going to hit the hold off P-dub, and it's just the hand flip and it's just the quick left into there. I just don't think you would see maybe 4X is extreme. I think it would be cut in at least half, but maybe a useless exercise. Sounded better in my head, but when you do these things live, it just happens.
Have you guys played it before?
I have.
And you were dry?
Dude, yeah, I was actually. It's funny. We had a Sunday pin, and inadvertently hit a little baby draw outside of the right and caught a piece right on the fringe and kept it there. But we do have an awesome video of our guy Adam, who's not on the pod. This is from 2013. Every year we create a new version of it and send it to him. But it's cool now that we have like a digital medium, because now we don't just send it to him, we send it to the world. He's our 10 handicap. I don't know what your handicap is. He's so Jewel and I were, we get made fun of because we always say we're the scratch and plus handicaps, but we suck at golf too. So he hits just a laser at the flag. It looks like it dunks. It was soaking wet all that morning. His ball mark is an inch under the cup, and it literally spun back to less than 3 feet in. What could go wrong? He doesn't even touch the hole on the birdie. And my father-in-law, nicest guy in the world, sick, their thick Southern accent. Oh, that ball didn't even look like it wanted to move an inch. It's just, damn, it's the most iconic moment. We get to relive it every single year. But you just played it, right, in the kind of media preview day, right?
Yeah, that was my first time. We played a scramble format for the round, so I don't have a score to share with you from that day. Probably a good thing. But I hit the green. I went ahead and did my 2-putt, so I can say I parred 17.
You got to.
Nice.
Wait, wasn't Roger Steele was in your group, right?
Yeah, Roger Steele was. He birdied it. He put it up there on the top shelf.
I'm sure you didn't take any of his drives or tee balls in the scramble, right?
No, finally at the end of the round, I was like, "What is your ball speed?" He's like, "Well, like 185." I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, he can move it. He could damn move the golf ball. That's for sure. Okay. So let's. I do want to save some time for Rolapp. But venue coverage. So kudos. Coverage is always great. It's just when you turn it on, it's an elite event. The camera works great. The course shows well. The greens are popping. The color greens are popping. The rough, the contrast. I will say, again, I don't want to just go negative. Brad Faxon, I would love to sit down and have him on this podcast. I would love to pick his brain and nerd out on golf. This has been over a full year of him coming into the booth on weekends. It's not it. Like, it's emotionless. And I know Kiz is there. Maybe he's supposed to bring the color, which does fine, but I just not asking anybody to throw him under the bus. But for me, that's not a good solution. It was very, like, some of those shots were iconic on 16, 17, 18 and a lot of tension. And it was just like, whoa, that was a golf shot. I was like, we need to have a little bit more fire and a little bit more of that orators kind of boom that's going to it. I don't think that's a good long-term solution. And like I said earlier, front nine's awesome. A lot of people, that's why I love watching Thursday, Friday golf of the big tournaments, because you don't get to see the back nine as much on coverage on the weekends. That front nine, I think outside of the third hole, I really like every golf hole. Last question I have for the channel. What would the Players Championship need to do? Because this came up in about 5 messages to me this week. What would the Players Championship need to do, in your eyes, to be considered a major championship? No, and to be fair, nobody got this question beforehand, so this is no prep time, Batman. You're going straight mano y mano. And the answer very well could be that you just don't think it is or should be.
This is obviously a huge topic last week until I think Brian Rolapp kind of poo-pooed the idea and said, walked everything back. Oh, we were just a marketing campaign. They just want to see what is out there. So
sure, just a marketing campaign.
We'll see. We'll see if they continue that push. But I think it's not just something the players or the PGA Tour could do. I think it'd have to be a coordinated effort, obviously, with the other 4 major championships. And I would really like the idea of the PGA Championship going international if we're going to have the Players Championship, because you can't. I think it was Paul McGinley was saying take the Players international. You can't move it from TPC Sawgrass because that's the identity of the tournament. And I think that is a major worthy golf course. If the Players wasn't there and we had the US Open there or the PGA Championship there every 10 years or so, like, it'd be a great golf course, right? I think for a major test. So I don't know if this would ever happen, but what if the PGA Championship went international? The Players Championship stayed where it is. You have Players and Augusta are your two standalone majors, always in the same spot. And then you have the US Open, you have the Open Championship, UK's major, then you have PGA. Maybe sometimes it's in the US. I'm not saying it has to be gone forever, but could the PGA go to Australia or South Africa or Asia? Maybe not Europe if we already have the Open Championship there. That's where I would say 5 majors would be okay. But I kind of think like it was a pretty big deal today. It's a big win for Cam Young. Like nobody's saying like this is not as big of a deal for Cam Young because yeah, of course, if he wins the Masters, it'll be a bigger deal. But like everybody, golf fans still know this is a huge deal for him to get this win, even though it's not a major championship.
Yep. Jewel, anything?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what David said. If they decided to make this a major, I don't know that the golf course anything needs to be done. It's a wonderful golf course that is very challenging for these guys. I think really it's just a scheduling thing. It just needs to be moved back to ensure that it's playing like it did this weekend, and we're not going to get a lot of rain. And that, to me, is really the only thing. But the golf course is ready to be a major if they decided to. I don't necessarily think it needs to. Today was incredible as it was and always is. But if they decided so, it's just a scheduling thing, in my opinion.
So, guys, sometimes as a podcast host, you ask leading questions because while I didn't care too much about the whole whether it is a major or not, because time will tell, Brian Rolapp rolled out 6 points in an open letter to PGA Tour fans. If you don't know, and you're at this point of the pod, I guess we have to give some context. Brian Rolapp is the new, what's the official term? He's not the commissioner. Is he the CEO? He's CEO of PGA Tour Enterprises. He rolled out 6 things in an open letter to fans this week. But the first one, and we'll go through all 6, season structure. So I think you guys kind of hit on some points I wanted to talk about, but really quick, the 6, and then we can figure out a couple of them. We could just kind of drive by a couple you might want to have some thoughts on. It was number 1 was season structure, 2, consistent fields, 3, open big. So talking about their first event of the year, 4, major markets, 5, promotion and relegation, 6, enhancing the postseason. And unlike me, he did it in an unwinded way in his notes. So he's got about a sentence or 2 descriptor for all of those. So number 1 for season structure, we can start there. There's an emphasis, quote, there is an emphasis on playing our schedule from late January to early September with roughly 21 to 26 events, including the majors, the players, and the postseason. Today, we have 8 signature events. We are effectively looking to at least double that number. I get it, guys. We probably should dedicate a full podcast to these 6. These are just kind of top level thoughts. I'll kick it off. Generally, I like the thought. Late February, I mean late January. I think they should just target that week before the Super Bowl when the championship games are done. AFC, NFC, Super Bowl. Target that week. Market it as the big kickoff of PGA Tour. Let NFL then do their thing, and then start from there. That's kind of what I would say on the front end. Enhancing the postseason's last, so I'll maybe save that comment as we go on. But I do think there's a structural issue here of what exactly that looks like. And I know he got into more details in the presser. 21 to 26 events, but we're talking doubling, going from 8 to at least 16 signature events. So it sounds like what he's saying is we're probably going to have 16 signature events with consistent fields. That's number 2. So we're going back to larger fields with a cut, but that sounds like it's going to be like the signature tour. And then those other 6, 8, 10 events are going to be your relegation, promotion, feeder events to qualify for them. What do you, so David, did I bastardize any of that? Is that what the thought is of what they think they're going to be rolling out in 27?
Yeah, and that really, that's the key right there. He said many times in the presser on Wednesday, which I was in the room, if you didn't know, by the way. He says we're not going to get rid of, not necessarily getting rid of events. Yes, there's going to be some events that are getting elevated to, I don't think they're going to be called signature events anymore. It's just going to be, he was using some weird terminology. He's saying first track of events and second track. So that's kind of the, where they're having issues is because like, you can't just say like, hey, we have PGA Tour and PGA Tour Light. So everything's going to be, I don't know, we would call it the championship series or the signature series or something. But yeah, basically you're going to have 120 player field events. Probably all the purses are going to be $20 million. And you're going to have, like, like you said, 16 or so of those, plus the players, plus the majors, plus the postseason, however they figure that out. And then you're going to have, your Valspars, probably your Houston, probably, what, give or take, whichever, even like your Myrtle Beach or your opposite field events, like anybody that wants to stay on schedule, I think is going to be able to stay on schedule, maybe not in that same exact date that they're in, this year or next year, but, you just might not you're going to be a opposite field event. You're going to be a second track event, as Rolapp was saying. And yeah, the goal is to have everybody playing every event a la Formula One, or kind of like what Live Golf was trying to do.
Yep. So, I mean, the hard part is for this on me is like, I have an opinion on like every single event. I know that sounds shocking, but I do believe in Rolapp. He's an adult in the room. He's going to make difficult decisions, and I get it. Nothing's going to be perfect. You're not going to satisfy me. You're definitely not going to satisfy every person. But I do struggle with the idea of like the complication of the tracks. Like when they started using that language, I was like, come on, man, just say what you want to say. We're going to have 16 events. That's the PGA Tour. That's going to lead to a crown jewel, amazing postseason. It's going to be incredible. And everyone else who has tour status, we're expanding the field. So you're going to be getting some of these starts based on your performance, based on your end of year standings. And then we're going to have other events that are going to be qualifiers for status to play in these. I don't like elevated series, but to play in the PGA Tour. And so I guess the track 1-2 kind of goes, well, they're all PGA Tour events. These are the events that qualify you for the championship. And these are guys competing to get into it. And I know it's more complicated than that. And I didn't hear anything in there. So I know we're just combining them. We talked major markets, consistent fields, promotion and relegation. I like the idea we're talking about major markets, but I think then that means, think of what the PGA Tour just did this last. We're spending the whole month in Florida, right? I just think the California, Texas, Florida monopoly on the PGA Tour has to be broken up in a meaningful way. And while this is a logistical nightmare, I can concede that going to rotational based regional events as opposed to the same venue every year, I think is such a huge marketing swing and miss for professional golf. Because, okay, the players, okay, I get it. It's iconic. You go every year. I think getting breathing room, whether you love Riv or you like Torrey Pines South or you like the Arnold Palmer, whatever it is, giving some compression and release and being able to have excitement when you're going back to those events, introducing new events in that little mini rota, maybe bringing back especially if you're going to add in like a Midwest rota and a Northeast rota. Still don't know how we don't have a PNW rota. I get it. Like you can't just bring the PGA Tour to Bandon Dunes. It's not what I'm saying. But I do think, I hope it matures to the point where it's not like, well, we've gone to this place forever and the sponsor loves it. It's like you own the events, you put on the events, who wants to sponsor them? But probably easier said than done. But I think Andy Johnson said it best 3 years ago, and I was quoted, it's the best players at the best venues. Anything else, it doesn't matter. I mean, we understand there's a million other things that technically build that up. But going to some of the venues that they've gone to just because they can accommodate a tour event might be good for these second tracks. But these signature events, whatever they're going to be called, the elevated series, they got to be killers, man.
And if you listen to Rolapp in his presser, he I think he gives you a little bit of hope because he was saying some things about he wants there to be great golf courses. He'll admit he's not a golf guy, so he's not going to be able to just tell you off the top of his head what the 20
We're
best
going to Myrtle
courses.
Beach, baby.
Yeah, exactly. But he agrees like best players at good golf courses, and he admitted like, yeah, it's a challenge. I don't know where I'm going to find 10 great golf courses, all that, fit into the New York market and the Boston market and the Chicago market and, Seattle and everything that DC that he mentioned. But I think he's open to thinking outside the box and maybe open to going to a place that can't accommodate 250,000 fans for the weekend. But if the sponsor is on board, if the player's on board, if it's going to be great on TV, if you can still have some hospitality and a good, like, you don't want to have a dead crowd there, right? To your point
Right.
about like, you can't go to Bandon or something like that. So I think he's open, and I think he is like listening to, he says he's not on social media, but I think he is listening to golf podcasts and people who are voicing their thoughts on social media. And he's really not thinking about it of like, well, we've always done it this way. If you talk to some other people, who are at the tour or kind of around, that's kind of what they've been preaching too, like behind the scenes a little bit, is like everything was just done a certain way for a long time because, well, that's just why'd you do it? And I think Rolapp is coming in, and his people that he's bringing in are saying, well, we're not just doing it because this is how it's been done anymore.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
brought
and
up the media. So you go ahead, Joel.
I was just gonna say, and that's what's so nice about it. It's just a fresh perspective right now where he's internally, it seems like, asking so many questions. Like he has no idea. He's a first day on the job, and he's just asking questions because he doesn't know better. And I think that's great for the PGA Tour right now. And I also love the fact that he just seems to keep dropping these like half baked plans just so he gets the feedback from the podcast or whatever. It
Yeah.
feels that way, right? Like, and I think that's a great strategic move.
Well, also just having a leader, man. Like, I don't know, Jay Monahan, sure, like a lot of these things, if you sat down with him, he might be a wonderfully nice man. Every time he spoke, it just reminded me of all the corporate nonsense I've dealt with my whole life. The pre-planned notes, follow the script. It just like to see a guy just get up there, no team around him. You ask a question, who has a question?
Yeah.
This is my job. If I don't, like, I'm going to give you the answer to the best of my abilities. And to me, that just goes a long way from a confidence perspective, in just like what could be. I still will say my cynical side goes a little bit. I'll believe it when I see it. I think one of the hard parts of golf is it's a member ran league. It's kind of the issue, guys. Like that's how you end up in Florida 7 times in a year, in Texas, and having signature events right after majors that, like just really weird compression of the schedule. And it is that stuff like, well, it's how it's always been. We got to pay the bills. We want it both ways. We want to have all this money and have these big purses, but we don't want to play more. Like I get it. It's very complicated, but I think at some point it's like the player's voice needs to be heard, but can't be the prerequisite if this is going to be like truly a sustained and growing model into the future. And postseason, I do want to talk about that before we get off. I was excited because he's the first person in official capacity that uttered the word match play. Maybe that was, again, to Jules' point, just a little bit of let's throw it out there.
Definitely.
But I think everyone concedes. Look, Jewel and I were in the Atlanta area, right? Jules played East Lake a couple times. He loves playing East Lake. It's one of his favorite courses. But we all recognize like that is not like those postseason. It's a sham. It's a money giveaway. Nobody that likes golf is into it. So that's just, we've heard the rumors that maybe it's going to be Riv and Pebble and match play. And the second you do match play, then you get a little more venue flexibility too, because you can get that old school feel of a lot of people following the groups. I'm really, really excited to see if they can actually get to a point where it's like, here's a regular season, the best of the best played at best venues. This is who qualified for the postseason. You've been eliminated. We're down to the point of, even if it's match play, like that's just, And I don't ever think winning the PGA Tour season is going to matter more than winning a major championship or maybe a
Yeah.
large event. But it should matter a lot. It should probably matter more than winning the Valspar or something, like that. Not just financially matter more, like matter more to the legacy of a golfer.
Can I throw an idea at you guys?
Mhm.
Tell me if this is completely ridiculous, but if we're talking match play, tour championship, season ending, Rolapp said he's going to consider it for all playoff events, and he'd like to have 3 of them. What if you had, instead of your traditional 4-day tournament, what if we go tennis style, 2 weeks? I'm talking like Monday, a weekend, all the way through another weekend. You get 2 weekends, all at the same venue, 36 hole matches, and you have like days off in between. So you show up somewhere, you have 128 players or whatever it is, 1 versus 128. That's, you have a bunch, you have your first round the first few days, and then you whittle it down just like you have that energy that you have at the US Open of tennis or at a Wimbledon. If you did on the West Coast, you could have it on primetime ESPN every single night for 2 weeks. I don't know. That seems like that would be kind of cool. I don't know if people would show up at a golf course for 2 weeks straight. But if it's the best players and, you're guaranteed they're going to be there, at least somebody's going to be there for the majority of the time. Would the golfers ever get behind that?
I would
I
meet
love
you.
the,
You go, Jewel.
Second time in a row. I love the
No.
idea. My only concern would be the golf course and whether it could like hold up for
Hold
2
up.
weeks. But I do think it'd be cool to have this flush of fans coming in, different types of people coming for 2 weeks because it's there for so long. So you have more opportunity to get more people in there. I think it would be awesome. And I obviously I love US Open, Wimbledon, and love that run. And I think it'd be really cool for golf. I think it's a great idea.
So this would be, I'd meet you halfway and say, I like the concept. I still think multiple courses in a region of like how you went to it would maybe be a little more entertaining. But this would be my open letter to Brian Rolapp that doesn't listen to social media, but might be listening to a golf podcast is, I think when it like, the challenge question I always have, and I've had with Live Golf, because one of the counter arguments you always get if we say anything critical of Live is you just got to go to an event. It's so fun there. Okay. What is the product? Is it a TV product or is it an in-person product? And I understand it's not black and white, one or the other, but that is where golf runs into, to me, a lot of fundamental issues is, well, we got to have the corporate buyout. We got to have the sponsors. We got to have the tents. We got to have grandstands protecting all of the trouble on every golf hole. But it's like, I know this is a little pie in the sky, but what's amazing watching the final match of the US Amateur and people are walking the course with them and there's not a grandstand in sight and you're playing at freaking Bandon Dunes, you're playing at Olympic Club. Like, I think there's a way of satisfying that corporate master when you have the 28 guys or the 32 guys and you pick these venues. But I would bill it as the freaking Thrilla in Manila at this course you haven't seen on TV. It's got to be on the West Coast. It's got, it's got to be, the drones are flying. Like, just make it the most must-view, epic produced viewing experience, maybe for the Final Four or whatever it is. That's kind of where I would love to see the direction go. If that's where you could think outside of the box and take some venue risk. But if the answer has to be, I'm not saying this was proposed, but the answer has to be Torrey Pines South for the finals because they can accommodate 250,000 people, I would argue then. I know the new media rights deal, I think it's 2030. Is that what he said? And a lot of the stuff
it goes through 2030. Yeah. But they'll start renegotiating in like 28.
And I think that is what I want to see inserted of change of like, we need to understand, like, we're going to develop the best TV product for these kind of events. And here's how we finesse the corporate tents and everything else. But if it just comes down to, well, FedEx wants this, it's like, man, that's going to be tough. But that's where I kind of like where you're going with it. I mean, I don't know if the players would get behind 36 holes, but certainly kind of baking it out of like crash coursing it. Don't spread it over 5 weeks or whatever it is. Get it in 2 weeks. This is all what's going on. Make it the epicenter of sports in late August where like right before college football and NFL is taking off. Like it sounds exciting. Like
I think 36 holes, well, whatever, it just makes sense because what's the complaint? It's like, oh, anybody can beat anybody in 18 holes. So theoretically, if you give Scotty Scheffler 36 holes, then even if he loses the first 18, he can come back and win the match, right? So theoretically your best player should stay in. But I'm with you on moving around too. I would like to see if the Tour Championship is going to be the PGA Tour's Super Bowl, at the end of the season, it should go to different courses, and maybe it's only West Coast, but like, man, like it should be like, hey, it's a big deal. We have the Tour Championship coming to our city this year, just like it is if you have the US Open or the PGA Championship coming to your city. It should be a bigger deal than just like, oh yeah, we're in Atlanta, we have this every year.
Yep. And I did take a note when you were talking earlier about the PGA Championship of, I think most people that follow this closely are kind of in that camp of like, if that could become an international major and you can get it into some of these insane venues in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa,
why not?
Asia, it would be it would be incredible. But I do think kind of my parting thought on today, and my voice is gone, so I do have to stop the pod, is I think golf is just, Liv introduced this mad dash of change, and that's a good thing, I think, in terms of the fundamental issues that the professional sport had in terms of sustainability. But they're going to continually run into like entertainment versus the what's the word I'm looking for? Not the democracy of golf, the meritocracy of golf. That's what the old heads, that's Tiger at the head of the table. It's a meritocracy. That's the best. You win and you come up. Well, that's great until you start asking for Saudi type of money, in which there has to be a return. Like you said, Scotty, can he become the needle, right? Unfortunately for golf, it doesn't always work out that way, that guys winning or being better is the most entertaining aspect of the game. It's an oddity of it. Certainly compelling back nines and tournaments. People can get vested in players they don't know. But, that's kind of, it's been funny. I think Rolapp even sees that with expanding back to the 120. I don't think it's as much as magnanimous to give the 150th player on tour opportunities to get into events. I think it's because he goes, guys, we got a chance like Ricky and JT and Spieth. If this was in effect 3 years ago, these guys wouldn't be in our events, right? Like, we can't expand to 20 sponsor events in a 7 or sponsor exemptions in a 20-person event. So I think there's more of that going on than people think of. Well, it needs to be large enough to where some of our marquee players can be top 120 in the world and still play in every event. So I don't know. I think that's just always going to be a push and pull of golf of, like they couldn't even they canceled the Creator Classic this year. So, like how
you
much
didn't get your invite?
Yeah, I was waiting, I was refreshing. Was it in my junk mail? No, I don't think for some reason the PGA Tour media folks are the biggest fan of me. I don't get it. But anyways, all good. The Jewel, David, I just get excited about this stuff. That's why we talk about it. But any parting thoughts on Rolapp or the players, or before we depart tonight?
I think on Rolapp, just people might not have catched it. He did say he plans on giving another update, holding a press conference at the Travelers Championship, which is the week after the U.S. Open. Apparently, there's a player policy board meeting earlier in June, so there'll be some stuff coming out of that. So that's at least some good news that, he's like, hey, we don't have the answers. Nothing set right now. I'll be back in June. It could be more. We still don't know. But I think they're probably looking to at least finalize the 2027 schedule by the Tour Championship in August, which is typically when they release the next season schedule. And, like he was saying, and like Tiger has been saying, probably not a ton of huge changes for 27. But as he admitted that last week, 2028 is really when they're targeting a lot of these big changes as far as the first track to second track and on all that stuff.
And we didn't even get into like, what could this do to the TGL schedule? I just don't, I'm really worried that this could impact, but if they're going to keep it, it should just be fall, winter, off-season golf for guys that want to do a cash grab. flying in between events to go down to South Florida, even if they get other venues stood up at other locations. It's the most ludicrous. It's not even a take on TGL. Just the schedule construction makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, hey, if we're talking TGL, we had 2 New York Golf Club teammates dueling in Matt Fitzpatrick and Cam Young today. And imagine the momentum they could have had if New York would have just made the playoffs. They didn't even make the playoffs, which start tomorrow.
I dropped the complete ball, not making that linkage there. That might get edited into the front of the pod there. That might be a promo though. That's just boom, boom, boom. New York Golf Club takes over Sawgrass. No, what could it be? Jewel?
I think that's it for me. Maybe just another notification that I'm going without buttons for good at Stream Song.
Well, the whole time at Stream Song?
Yeah, the whole time. I'm have to bring a lot of sunscreen spray, but yeah, feeling the Cam Young vibes right now.
So I am good. We got great weather. It's going to be sunny, going to be warm. It's southeastern guys, no problem. So David, you don't know Mr. Golfberg. He's my cousin Aaron. He's in Seattle and he's a Midwesterner and now a PNWer. He's gonna die. It's only gonna be like 82, but he is gonna die. But coming out of winter, none of us have the skin ready, I don't think, for the 4 full days of burning in the sun down there. But I am excited. It's gonna be
enjoy it, guys.
So David, first of all, hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sure you're not coming back on after this performance. No, no, we really do appreciate it. I was tracking you your whole week there. I do encourage everybody, go follow you, Front Office Sports, David Rumsey. You got it going on Instagram. Everything you guys are putting out on the business side of not just golf, all sports. Really, really interesting follow. I'd love to have you back on, check in during some of these major events. It's good to have your insight, ear to the ground, and filling in some gaps that we don't have. But other than that, lettuce heads, we'll see you next week. We're going to be at Stream Song, so we're probably going to have a pre-record that goes out next week because it's going to get pretty wild for the next 4 or 5 days. But as always, we will see you after that. Stay plugged. Peace.